The stage is set.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. It is the Locked On ACC podcast. I'm Jackson Holzer, filling in for host Alex Dono. He is with family right now. That's Kenton Gibbs, former NC State defensive tackle, now host of the Locked On Wolfpack podcast. And folks, we got a great show for you guys today. The stage is set in the ACC. Everyone handled their business that needed to handle their business. So there is one more week to decide who is going to play in the ACC title game. We already know one, but who is going to be the other? Plus, we're going to talk about the fall of the Pitt Panthers. Kenton once proclaimed them being the national champions, and since then, they've lost 4 straight. What has happened to Pitt? We're going to talk about that later on. And plus, the latest AP poll is out. Only 3 ACC teams represented. I'm sure myself and Kenton are going to have a lot to say on that. Before we get to everything, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So last week in the ACC, it was an exciting week of football. Everyone held serve. SMU is in the ACC title game after a beatdown against Virginia. That game was never close. There's really not much to talk about from that. Miami, a little bit of a stare once again against Wake, but they prevailed in the fourth quarter. They got themselves a win. Clemson, they didn't need to win, but, they did well in their scrimmage. Kenton, what are you most looking forward to this next weekend? Kenton, you're muted.
I'm most looking forward to how these teams react. You see, me and Jackson Holzer, we've got a long history, and clearly he's trying to silence me already because of his blasphemous pick comments, where I have never proclaimed that team to be a national champion. I have never proclaimed that team to be a national champion. But next week, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to see which teams have the maturity to finish the season the right way. There are a lot of teams that, although there's nothing in the national spectrum that's relevant to them, there is a ton that is for personal pride, a very important thing for them. It's rivalry week, Jackson. It's rivalry week, baby. You've got South Carolina, Clemson. You've got NC State, UNC. You've got so many great rivalries this week. I'm honestly and truly confused as to why the backyard brawl ain't played on this week as well, but that's neither here nor there. I am excited about all of these rivalries because I'm going to tell you something. In the words of one Kendrick Lamar Duckworth, it's always been about love and hate. And let me tell you, I'm the biggest hater. So I love to see some good old-fashioned hate on my gridiron. Everybody's too friendly these days, but rivalry week brings out the hater in everybody.
Yes, it does. And one of them you mentioned, Clemson and South Carolina, that has no ACC title game stakes whatsoever. Clemson is 7-1 in the ACC. That is locked in. Obviously, South Carolina is in the SEC. But that game, we'll talk about it later on, that game could have huge college football playoff implications in trying to maximize how many ACC teams get in. But Kenton, come on. I mean, the matchup of the week is coming up here. SMU, win or lose, they are in the ACC title game, but we don't know the other one. That's because the Miami Hurricanes got to go up north to play my Syracuse Orange for a trip to the ACC title. Kenton, do you think that Miami's up for the challenge here?
I think they're up for the challenge, but I think Syracuse will be much more of a challenge than many people think. I think that people have written off Syracuse as a very bad team because of some first-year head coaching mistakes that we've seen from Fran Brown. But did we not talk about this at the beginning of the season? You and I on the squad, and when you came on Locked On ACC, we both talked about, hey, Fran is going to be a first-year head coach. He surrounded himself with former head coaches, but he's going to do first-year head coach things. We saw those things rear their ugly head. Kyle McCord had a Kyle McCord game here and there. But with that in mind, this is still a team that offensively, they're one of the most capable offenses in the country. Pena, Meeks, Gaston. You've got, and that's just at the the pass catching positions, not including LaQuint Allen, who's been one of the best running backs all year in terms of all purpose. So that offense will give Miami fits. The question is, can Miami's defense be opportunistic enough, and can Cam Ward do enough of this here, enough of his best Superman impression to carry them in the Carrier Dome? I don't care what it's called now. His mama called him Carrier Dome. I'm gonna call it the Carrier Dome.
You know, it's funny because it was the Carrier Dome and there was no air conditioning for the longest time. Then they rename it to the JMA Wireless Dome, and the internet service in there, not very good. So it doesn't matter what the name is. It doesn't really match the building. Here's what I'll say about Miami. Okay, they are a 10.5-point favorite against Syracuse this weekend.
Yeah.
They really won this game against Wake Forest with their defense. Now, I know that Wake Forest is not, an offensive juggernaut here or there. Like, I get it. But I was pretty impressed with Miami's defense. They bounced back from a couple of weeks ago against Georgia Tech. Miami's defense, you ready for this, Kenton? They gave up a net of 0 points. Think about it for a moment. They gave up a net of 0 points. They gave up one touchdown. They scored a touchdown, right? They had that pick six.
Right.
And the other touchdown was a kick return. So the Miami defense, a net 0 against Wake Forest. I don't care what team you're playing. That is highly, highly impressive. Now, are they going to do that against a team like Syracuse? I mean, personally, I'm the host of Locked On Syracuse. I hope not. And they probably won't. But I think the key for Miami against a team like Syracuse is we know that Kyle McCord is good to throw at least 1 or 2 balls a game where you're going to get your hands on them. Yeah. You are going to get your hands on them. It's if you actually capitalize on it. We saw what happened when Syracuse played Pitt. Pitt took advantage of the mistakes. When Syracuse played UNLV, they had a couple of drop interceptions, and lo and behold, Syracuse wins the game. Yeah. So my thing with Miami is, can they carry over that impressive defensive output against Wake Forest, against Syracuse, which should be a much tougher challenge? And there's a lot on the line here for these Miami Hurricanes. And with Mario Cristobal, are we sure that he can really get it done?
Oh, man. I'm going to tell you this. If Mario can't get it done right here, Miami fans need to give up and understand he'll never get it done. This is the team. This is the group. With all due respect, I don't think you get a much better backfield. And many people tell me I overrate this backfield, but I don't get. I've watched them play football. The numbers don't reflect how impactful Martinez and Fletcher are. They just don't. They don't. You got those two guys, and then you got Miami's leading receiver that's on top of all these stat sheets. It ain't Michael Irvin, ain't Santana Moss, ain't Andre freaking Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Hall of Famers. All these guys I just named, Ring of Honors for their respective teams. It's some short kid that nobody said was that good, some Restrepo kid that's currently on the team. Cam Ward, the best quarterback. He's now on all through their single season record books in terms of what he's done this year. You have a group, and don't even get me started about Hurricane Bane. I mean, the man is the bane of offense's existence because that's how he comes off that edge. So you have a group that I don't think talent-wise, man for man up and down the roster, I don't think you will find better than this. I don't think you can create better than this. Even being in the state of Florida, while both Florida and Florida State are extremely down, I still don't think you'll be able to create much better than what we're seeing right now from this team. You know what I mean? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mario takes advantage of this Sozin's comment moment where it's like, we'll be at our best strength because the other two Florida teams are terrible. But if you lose this game to Syracuse and Clemson jumps you to get in, there absolutely needs to be a moment. And I'm not a believer in every loss is a requiem for a coach. And should we keep him? Should we fire him? But that loss in particular would be a moment where you say, what the hell is going on? Are we an unserious program or what?
I mean, this is, to me, this is almost like Miami's last chance.
Right.
It's not like they are not going to ever have, strong recruiting classes, but
of course,
are they going to have the Heisman front runner next season?
No.
Cam Ward's not coming back, guys. He's out of eligibility. He's going to the NFL. He's going to be a top 5 pick. I hope the New York Jets. I'm a Jets fan. I hope they take him. I really hope they get him. Okay. This is it. this could be your one chance in, I don't know, maybe 10 years. Miami's a good football program, so they're going to get another chance. You know it. It's just a matter of when, right?
Yeah.
This could be it for Miami, though. This is their best chance to not only get to the ACC title game, but win the conference outright, get to the college football playoff, and have a legitimate chance to win the national title game. But they have to go through that pesky Syracuse football team led by Fran Brown and their own great quarterback in Kyle McCord. I can't wait for it, Kenton. I'm sure you can't wait for it. That is this Saturday. All right, so the stage is set in the conference. Miami wins, they're going to the ACC title. If they lose, Clemson is going to the ACC title. Now, coming up, we're going to talk about one team who had control of its own destiny, and then all of a sudden, they're done. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And we've been talking all along about the game of the week, Syracuse football versus the Miami Hurricanes in the JMA Wireless Dome right now. Miami trying to clinch a spot in the ACC title game. They are a 10.5-point road favorite. What do you think of those odds? Do you think Miami's going to cover? Do you think they're going to win outright but not cover? Or do you think that Syracuse might even pull off that upset? That's up for you to decide. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. There was a team that was 7-0, had control of its own destiny, coming off a blowout victory on their home field over my Syracuse Orange. And I was deflated after that game. And I was like, man, these Pitt Panthers, are they for real? Kenton, the whole time on the squad episodes, keep hyping up Pitt. They're a great team. They can really make noise. And since then, 4 straight losses. They are now 7-4. Their season, while yes, they are still playing for pride, they're still playing for that 8th win, they are not playing for anything tangible anymore because they're not making the ACC title game. They're not in college football playoff talk. They can't make it. They're done. It's over. And it was capped off really last night with a blowout loss to Louisville. Now, good news for Pitt fans on the injury front with quarterback Eli Holstein. He left the game very early on in the first quarter. Good news is that Holstein was on the sideline in the second half. He didn't come back into the game, but at least he was on the sideline. So I don't know what his status is for the next game, but it doesn't look all too serious. But Kenton, these Pitt Panthers, what happened?
I am not excited about this at all. I am not excited to say this at all. I am thoroughly disappointed in Narduzzi. I have not seen a choke job like this in quite some time. And here's the thing, right? I'm not going to sit here and pretend, oh, this team's been horrible all the way. Every single step of the way during this 4-loss bid here, they've been horrible. But you know what they have been? Immature. They are a team that has shown an inability to take a loss on the chin and say, you know what? I'm not going to let one loss turn into 2. Because you let one loss turn to 2, turn to 3, turn to 4, because you were sitting there moping, feeling sorry for yourself. When you take that huge L to SMU, hey, you live with it, you deal with it. Little did you know SMU would be a top 10 team in the nation later on in the year, but you live with that. How the hell do you lose to Virginia? And I get it. It's a 1-possession game, but it should have never been there. You should have never been close. You should have shown up in a better way. And then you play Clemson, and you're finally looking like this is going to be your get-right game. You beat Clemson by every possible metric. You're the better team.
There's just one metric they didn't beat them in.
and that's points on the board. Oh, there's two. Performance in the red zone is another one. Because every time they were the big, bad, mighty Pitt Panthers between the 20s. But as soon as they got into the red zone, we're just little boys. We're just a little scared, Jackson. We don't know to score a touchdown. We want kicker to kick field goal, Jackson. It's disappointing and it's embarrassing. And to get it capped off by this domination, you deserve what you got at this point, Pitt. I don't care that I went down with your ship because you looked good early enough for me to believe in you. But the way that you did this, Narduzzi, it'll be a long time before you get me back on your train again, brother. I'll tell you that much.
There was one moment in this game a couple of nights ago against Louisville that I don't know what it is with Narduzzi. He's a good coach, but man, his decision-making sometimes, I mean, you can do this with any coach with their decision-making, but I wrote down this one moment in the second quarter. Pitt fans are going to know what I'm talking about here. They're down 24-0, okay? That's already not very good, right, Kenton? You're down 24-0 in the second quarter. You would agree that's bad.
Absolutely.
Being down 24-0, right? Now you have a 4th and 1, okay? You have 4th and 1, and you're at your own 36-yard line. You're down 24-0 in the second quarter. You're down 24-0. You have a 4th and 1, not 4th and 15, not 4th and 8, right? Which is obviously you're going to punt, even though you're down by a lot. 4th and 1 at your own 36. Late in the second quarter. By the way, Kenton, you're not getting the ball to start the second half. You kind of got to maximize your possessions here. He punts.
Yeah.
And he punts.
Yeah.
I wrote that down immediately, and I'm like, has the coach given up on the team? That's how bad it was. And I heard the broadcast saying, and I don't normally like getting on the broadcasters, okay? But I heard one of the broadcasters saying, like, well, Pitt's defense hasn't been able to stop Louisville all game, and if you don't get it, you have a short field for Louisville. What difference does it make?
Exactly.
You're already down 24 points.
Exactly.
Well, it's 4th and a yard, man. Like, come on. You got to go for it.
Just out of curiosity, did Louisville score again despite Pitt punting? Did they score again in that second quarter?
Yes. I believe they did.
They did. They
so
put
what's
another
the
field
difference?
goal. I 1,000% agree with you. Narduzzi is both the best of coaching and worst of coaching all at once. It's so fascinating to watch. It's so fascinating to watch at times. But you fooled me. You got me. Hey, joke's on me. Jackson is forever going to victory lap about my Pitt takes that have aged like an open avocado, and I deserve it. Never again.
Listen. I mean, they destroyed my Syracuse Orange.
There you go.
Like I can't really talk bad about them because they absolutely obliterated us on their home field. But I wrote that moment down, and I was like, I don't know what to say about Coach Narduzzi other than that was a terrible decision to make.
Yeah,
absolutely brutal. 4th and 1, you're down 24 points. You're not getting the ball to start the second half.
Yep.
And you punt.
Go see the Wizard get some heart. Go see the Wizard get some heart, man, because that was gutless.
I saw UConn against Syracuse go for it on a 4th and 1 in their own territory. They're down 7-0.
Yep.
That's all it was. I saw them do it, and that's a little bit more gutsy. You got to, I mean, you're only down 7-0 here. I mean, I would have punted the football, but like that goes to show you how much he really should have been aggressive there. It's not even really aggressive, in my opinion. You got nothing to lose. You're already getting killed. And it just made absolutely no sense. And I think it perfectly sums up this Pitt demise. You get blown out by SMU. Okay, fine. You lose to Virginia. That's not very good. You blow a game against Clemson because you can't tackle Cade Klubnik in the open field. And then you just get annihilated at Louisville. I mean, the duality of Pitt this season. My goodness. All right, so we talked about the fall of the Pitt Panthers, the once national champions, now playing only for pride. Coming up, we are going to talk about the latest AP poll and how many ACC teams are represented. Folks, I know we're talking all football here on the podcast, but need I remind you that basketball season is in full swing, whether it's NBA or college, the ACC. It's always exciting to go to games, and the way I get tickets for going to games is by using Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And my favorite feature is the curated deals. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The latest AP poll is out, and 3 teams are represented from the ACC. Only 3 of them, all right? And I'll give them to you right now. Coming in at number 8, we got Miami at 10-1. At number 9, SMU in the top 10 at 10-1. So finally, SMU getting a little bit of love. I have to admit that. That's good from the AP poll. And Clemson. How about Clemson? Could we maybe see 3 teams in the ACC in the playoff? Maybe we'll talk about that later on. All right, that might be a tomorrow's podcast, okay? But Clemson is at 12th in the country right now. Kenton, what stood out to you in the latest AP poll?
I mean, I do appreciate the love that SMU is now getting, but why did it take so much? Why did it take so much for SMU to get love? Why did it take so much for Miami to get love? Why did it take so much love in general for these things to happen? It's a bit nonsensical to me when I am staring at what I am looking at. When everybody's screaming their heads off about how good other conferences are and how we're a part of the Little Brother Conference. Well, the Little Brother Conference, one of our mediocre, lackluster teams in Cal beat an SEC team that just pulled off a major upset. Well, SEC teams are getting upset by being held to 3 points by an Oklahoma team that couldn't score if you put every one of their players in a brothel with $1 billion apiece. Like, I'm very genuinely confused as to why it took so long, but I'm happy it's here. I have railed against the bias against the ACC for some time. I'm glad that these teams have created an environment where you can no longer deny it. And again, I will say one final time, there is not a world where the ACC is a one-bid conference if we are serious in terms of, hey, this is what the College Football Playoff Committee cares about. Hey, this is a consistent criteria. And I'm going to stretch outside of our conference one more time just to show you how unserious the conference is or how unserious the College Football Playoff Committee is. Indiana was said that, they're not a good team. They haven't beaten anybody, and they have to keep it close against Ohio State. Why did that same logic not apply to Texas?
I don't know.
At least with Penn State, I can see the argument of they kept it close with Ohio State. That was a slugfest. It was a knockdown, drag out. Hey, Ohio State just barely gets the best of them. I don't understand. Oregon to Ohio State. I get it. Ohio State kept it close. You can't get closer than 1 point. I get it. Why is Texas not held to that same criteria as Indiana? When you play a real team, you got to keep it close. You got it. Because the only time that Texas played a team in the upper half of the SEC's standings, they lost by double digits. So again, I'd love to see some consistency from the committee in terms of what matters and what doesn't. And I'd love to see, again, if that even criteria was applied, I have no doubt many ACC teams would jump up higher in the ranks and we would be comfortably a 2-bid league.
To me, it's, first of all, the reason why SMU is getting a lot of love, I'll tell you why. I mean, you might not like it, but this is the reality, okay? And I'm not saying I agree with this. I actually don't. But the reason why they're actually getting a little bit of love now is because some teams lost this weekend in the SEC. I mean, you had Alabama losing, Ole Miss losing. And so those teams are now 8-3, and the committee does not have the stomach to be like, well, we're going to put 8-win Bama over 10-win SMU. Like, they're pretty malicious. I don't think they're that malicious where they would literally ignore 2 games. And by the way, I mean, those were not good losses by those SEC teams. I mean, Bama lost to Oklahoma
and Vanderbilt.
Is Baker Mayfield quarterbacking Oklahoma right now?
No, sir. No,
He's
sir.
not. Okay, so it's a bad loss.
Jalen Hurts ain't walking through that door. Hollywood Brown ain't walking through that door. Sam Darnold ain't walking through.
No,
Sam
Darnold went to
Sam
USC.
Bradford. Sam Bradford ain't walking through that door. Adrian Peterson, Jason White, none of them boys walking through that door.
No, they're not on that team this year. How about Ole Miss?
Oh,
You think Florida's a good team? I mean, Florida fans, they were really happy. I know they were really happy when Billy Napier was coming back. I know they were super thrilled
up about that.
They're so excited because they want another 6-win season or 7-win season because that's the standard at the University of Florida, right? So that's not a good loss. So that's really why I think SMU is getting a lot of love here in the AP poll, because it just took other teams finally losing or just getting upset. If Bama and SMU, or not, excuse me, if Bama and Ole Miss win their games, they are above SMU. Not in my opinion, but that's what the AP poll would have done. Because
that's very interesting. It's very interesting.
There's a bias there. It's not even a little. You can't even hide it.
And again, we talk about the circular motion, and I want to take us back to how strength of record or strength of schedule is determined. Strength of schedule is determined by preseason rankings. Like, do we not realize
which are filled by the SEC anyway?
But do we not realize how insane that is to say, hey, we believe you're going to be the best of teams based on what? Oh, just because we believe it. Do you not understand how circular that logic is? Well, if you beat this team, then you're good. Well, if you lose to this team, then that team that beat you must be good because you're still good because I thought you were good. It's too many people who are afraid to change their opinion. It's too many. There's too many. Too many people who are scared of being wrong, scared of being the crazy one. I'm okay with being the crazy one in the room. And that's why Jackson keeps saying the Pitt team that I crowned national championship. Because I was okay with saying, from what I saw, that was a damn good team. And you know what? I will live with that. I will die with that if I'm wrong. And now I'm dying with their 4-game losing streak. Because I got the balls to do it. A lot of these media members do not have the cojones necessary to say, you know what? Maybe Bama's not good. Saban ain't walking through that door. Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, they're not coming back. Terry and Arnold's gone. None of those guys are coming back. Humphreys is gone. They're not coming back. And this Ole Miss thing, what is that? What even was that? Like, and the worst part about it is this. What we will hear about Miami beating up on Florida State, Florida, not just beating them, demolishing Florida in the swamp. First game of the year. Swamp is packed out and rocking. What we'll hear is, well, you didn't play this DJ Lagway-led team.
Oh, my goodness, man.
It was a different team. Well, okay, that's fine.
What do you want them to do?
That's fine. So Auburn losing to Cal. Cal is not one of the better teams in the ACC. They have a terrible conference record. They just won their first conference game in week 10 or 11? Something like that?
They're so bad they lost to Florida State.
So with that in mind, what do you say about that Auburn win? Did Peyton Thorne turn into a whole new guy?
You can go ask Zach at Locked On Auburn his thoughts. Maybe he thinks that.
Again, it's a very circular logic that, we believe you'll be good in the preseason, therefore you must be good. Therefore, when teams beat you, they've now beaten a good team because they beat you. Has Florida State shown us nothing? You can be believed to be good in the preseason and not be that. Has NC State shown us nothing?
Yeah.
Has Ole Miss, has Bama, have these teams shown us nothing?
And it works the other way too. There are teams who you predict aren't going to be very good, and all of a sudden, look at that, they're 10-1. SMU. I think SMU was projected to be pretty good. You didn't think they'd be this good.
No, nobody.
No, you didn't think they'd be this good. They're on their second quarterback, by the way.
Yep.
It was supposed to be Preston Stone. It's now Kevin Jennings. You didn't think they'd be this good.
Kevin Jennings is a magician back there.
You go in the Big Ten. Did anyone see Indiana coming?
Yeah.
Oh, Indiana fell back to earth. What did they do so wrong? Oh, they lost to Ohio State on the road. What a shame. You lost to a team, in my opinion, is going to win the national title this year. That's my opinion. I think they're going to win the national title. But that's what they did wrong. But now
that's exactly what I mean.
Now.
And that's exactly what I mean, Jackson. How does losing to Ohio State and then not being close mean more than 3 losses? mean more than losing to a team that lost to Georgia State and losing to Oklahoma? How does one loss, double-digit to Ohio State, mean more than a 21-point loss to Oklahoma?
I don't know.
And again,
you know that the committee doesn't want to put in Indiana. I'll say that right now. They don't want to put them in at all.
And this the last thing I'm gonna say about it. The excuses don't even line up from team to team. So we keep hearing you didn't play this version of Florida, you didn't play this version of this team, you didn't play. Well, okay. So then Georgia has a terrible loss to Bama because Bama keeps getting worse. They keep getting worse. They don't look good. They look terrible. So I want to know, do these teams get a demotion for, well, you didn't exactly beat the best version of this team. Well, you lost to a team that was going to go on and do some real irk and jerk behavior toward the end of the season. I would love to know it. We all know the answer is no. We all know the answer is whatever criteria needed to justify as many big brands in.
It just means more, It just means more. It just means more.
I bet.
Georgia, by the way, their 2 losses. You mentioned the one to Alabama, which obviously doesn't look as good now. I mean, it's not a terrible loss, but doesn't look as good now. And their other one is Ole Miss on the road, which ironic that those 2 teams lost. Ironic.
But nobody's got the gumption to say, you know what? So what that Georgia's won a couple of the last few national championships. Again, Nolan Smith ain't walking through that door. I'm sorry to tell you. Jordan Davis is not walking through that door. I'm sorry to tell you. You don't get a divine right to be there just because you're there. And another team that I want to have a conversation about is half ACC member Notre Dame. But we could be here ad nauseum talking about them. We could be here all day.
I mean, at least Notre Dame's 10-1.
They are 10-1, and they have multiple wins over ranked teams. But
and they beat Army. They pretty much knocked Army out.
Knocked Army and Navy out of this thing.
Yep.
So I can at least understand their argument, and that's why I said that's a conversation for another day. But a lot of these SEC teams, I don't see the argument on. I mean, really and truly don't see it.
I was going to point out one more before we wrap up here. I mean, how about Tennessee? I mean, Tennessee right here is ranked 7th at 9-2. One of their losses is to Arkansas. Arkansas.
But that just means
but they're somehow 7th in the country. But Miami, which is 10-1, is 8th. Oh, Miami is a bad loss. They lost on the road to Georgia Tech. So then what is the Arkansas loss? What's the Arkansas loss to Tennessee? I don't understand how you justify Tennessee over Miami and SMU or Indiana for that matter. I don't get it. I mean, SMU's won losses to BYU, which I know BYU is struggling now, and they might play themselves out of the playoff. That's not a bad loss. So why is it that Tennessee is ranked 7th in the country, but 8, 9, and 10 should all be higher? We all know the answer. We know it. It's just something to point out that it makes no sense. That their reasoning is just flawed, but at least they have 3 teams in the top 12. I'll give them that. So I think we'll take 3 teams in the top 12 when all is said and done.
And one more thing before you head out of here. I was talking to old Gordo over there from Locked On SEC, okay? And he was talking about, we can't just look at the losses. We got to talk about the wins. It's about the quality wins. Okay, so quick question. Do we reevaluate the quality of a win in real time? Because it's looking a little topsy-turvy. It's looking a little, none of the wins look that good if we're looking at what's happening in the SEC. And even beyond that, why would the losses just not matter? Why? In what world
they lost to Arkansas? They're not very good, Arkansas.
You can lose 1/4 of your games and still be considered one of the best 12 teams in the nation. Okay. Are y'all cool? Are y'all
I will give you one caveat here. Okay. I'll give you one caveat. You're a team that consistently plays a top 5 team in the country every single week, and your 3 losses are all by 1 point to Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas, the current top 3. Then I can maybe make an argument.
Sure. Yeah.
But
nobody has that.
Nobody has
nobody. Not a single one of these teams with all these multiple losses at the top. I believe almost all of them have lost to a team that was either unranked or ranked on the cusp of the top 25. And I don't believe all of their losses were by single digits. So again, I'm struggling to find what makes sense about Indiana has to keep it close. Bama does not. Indiana has to, they have to win that game. It's foolishness that, again, that game functioned as a play-in game for the playoff only if Indiana lost badly. But any other way, it's like, oh, I guess we'd have to. It's foolishness, man. It really is.
I mean, Indiana next week, it looks like they got to win to get in now. Simple as that. I mean, they fell all the way to 10th in the AP poll. College football playoff rankings are really what matters at the end of the day. So we'll see what the college football playoff has to say about the 3 ACC teams that are currently in the top 12. Miami at 8, SMU at 9, Clemson at 12, also Indiana in the Big Ten. What are they going to do with them after, playing a Big Ten schedule, beating teams in the Big Ten, but, losing to a team that might win the national championship this year in Ohio State. So we'll see what they do with Indiana. Other teams in the ACC that got votes, maybe you think they should have gotten in, but we don't have as much time to go over them right now. My Syracuse Orange, 37 votes. Louisville got 24. Duke got 6. And Georgia Tech got 2 votes. So that is the AP rankings talk. We have gone over a lot here on this episode of Locked On ACC. If you like this video, click that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications so you know right away when we are dropping the next podcast. I'm Jackson Holzer, the host of Locked On Syracuse, filling in for Alex Dono, the Locked On Canes host. That's Kenton Gibbs, the host of Locked On Wolfpack. Be sure to check out our channels when you're done listening or watching to this. And everyone, we'll see you all tomorrow.